Hello, everybody. We have reached the end of our unit on operations with decimals, and we're going to do a chapter review today. And I just wanted to refresh a couple of things that we did earlier in the unit so that everyone feels comfortable before they get started. And I thought it would be kind to refresh with some of the actual problems on your review. So you will find that we are about to do problem number 4 and refresh our minds about multiplying with decimals. So I recopied the problem vertically. That's step number 1. And then step number 2 is to multiply ignoring the decimal point. So we have 8 times 9 is 72. 9 times 0 is 0, plus 7 is 7. And 9 times 6 is 54. And then if we use the common sense method, we would do 6 times 9 is 54. And that would tell us the decimal point goes there. And if we do the counting the spaces method, there's 2 spaces behind the decimal point in the problem. And now there's 2 spaces behind the decimal point, 1, 2, in the answer. So I think that answer makes sense as 54 and 72 hundredths. The next problem I picked was problem number 10. In problem number 10, I just wanted to remind you about exponents. When you get a number like 10 with a little itty bitty 3 up above, that really means 10 times 10 times 10. So 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. And I like to just write it above the number with the exponent because it's easier for me to count the zeros and just makes life easier for me. So now I am multiplying this number 9 and 335 thousandths by 1,000. So I know that my answer is going to be bigger, and because I'm multiplying. And I know that means I'm moving the decimal point to the left. Excuse me. If it's getting bigger, it's going to the right. And I'm going to move it to the right 1, 2, 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3 spaces means that my answer here is going to be 9,335. And as a quick estimate to check if that makes sense, I'm going to just say, well, 9 times 1,000 is 9,000. So do I have a 9 in the thousands place? Yes, I do. So I think that one is looking pretty good. Then the next problem I chose was problem number 12. And problem number 12 is one of those mystery problems that we love. So I have an answer, and my answer is 67 and 500ths. And I know that some number was divided by 10 to get that answer. And the little one here in that 10, it tells me that I'm going to be dealing with the same digits. I just have to figure out where the decimal point is going to go. And then I'm going to think about, let's see, if I'm dividing here, that means that my answer is going to be smaller than the number I started with. And I'm dividing by 10. And there is 1, 0. That indicates one place value section on the chart. So if I have a bigger number, it started out bigger. I come over to my smaller number. I move it over 1 decimal point, and I say, does it make sense for the number to have been 670 and 5/10? Because it's 1 space on the decimal chart or on the place value chart. And then I check myself. I say, well, if I actually did that, then I would be making a smaller number when that would move back and make 67. So I think my answer here is 670.5. Now, the last problem that we are going to do, I noticed when I was looking for which ones I would use that I didn't actually solve number 18 on the answer key. So I thought, I guess that means that we need to work on number 18. And I started to write it down so that I had recopied it the way I liked it. And then I noticed, this is one of those ones where I'm going to have to put some zeros in. And it's kind of tricky to figure out, how do you get those zeros in when you don't know how many zeros you need? So, and this is especially problematic if you like to divide the partial quotients or big 7 way. Because if you do it the traditional way, you just put your decimal point straight up, and then that's it. And that's not very complicated. But with the big 7 way, you're thinking about a whole number, and it is complicated to figure out how many zeros to put in. And I'm looking at the problem and saying, well, I have 3,000, so at the very minimum, I need to put a 0 in. And then I can kind of decide, I'm obviously going to have a remainder if I put the 0 in, and it doesn't look like it's going to be resolved with 1 0, so I am going to put 3 zeros in. I pretty much never put more than 3 zeros in, and sometimes if it says that you should round, then I only put 2 zeros in, and then I make a fraction out of my remainder and decide if it's going to be bigger or smaller. But in this case, it didn't ask me for a rounded answer. It asked me for the full answer, so I'm just going to put in my 3 zeros and see what happens. So I put in 3 zeros and I start, and I say 3,000. I want that 3,000 to be right there. And how many more zeros do I need? I need 2 more zeros. That means I'm multiplying 3,000 by 100. And then I take this giant number away, and I have 18,000. And then I say, well, 6 times 3 is 18. So if I get that 18 there, and then I have 1, 2, 3 zeros after it. Oh, look at that. It matches up perfectly. So now my answer is 106. But I got to figure out, where does the decimal point go? And common sense says it's going to be out here somewhere, right? Because we know it's less than 1. And I put my decimal here, and look, 1, 2, 3 behind the decimal point, and so my common sense agrees with the number of spaces to the right of the decimal in the answer, so I can write down 106 thousandths. And if I did that the traditional way, it would look like this. I would start by just putting the 1 0. You don't have to plan ahead in the traditional way. And you say, nope, that won't work. 0 times 3,000 is 0. And then you put another 0 in, and that's where you get the 18,000. All right. Well, if you feel like you want a little refresher on converting measurements, you might go back to the video from last week. Otherwise, I wish you luck. I'm sure you're going to do really well on this, and I think you should get right down to business and work on that chapter review. And remember, that one's not in your math journal. You need to either print it, or you can look on your computer screen and write your answers on a piece of notebook paper, just like it's a textbook. Okay? I would love to see your work, so take a picture and send it to me. And good luck with everything. Bye.